anything to vote on, so.
What's that?
Around.
We didn't have anything to vote on, so.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's start with, no, I just need to do the board members, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Whitcomb?
Here.
Ms. Stearns? Here. Ms. Campbell here. Ms. Ressler? Here. Ms. Gleason? Here. Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Canning? Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2.1, comments from the public. Do we have any comments from the public?
Okay, yes, we have several. We have two that are in person. Carrie Boger. I'm sorry if I'm saying your last name wrong. Please correct me.
Right, yes.
Okay, great.
Please stand right here.
The microphone is open.
Podium and microphone.
Hello, everyone. I did send this email to quite a few of you in this room, but this is, I guess, just for anybody who didn't hear it, so I'll just start. I'm reaching out to you today as a parent of two current Oak Forest High School students, Carter and Landon Boger, who are both here. And I just wanted to briefly voice my personal feelings of the hopes that District 228 does the right thing and keeps our kids in school as much as possible. I have been a parent with so many mixed emotions during this COVID pandemic. I've been on a roller coaster of emotions. In the beginning, I was kind of in denial that this virus was even as big as they were saying. It was my feeling was, oh my God, really? Are they going all these extreme measures for a hyped up flu-like virus? And then the governor shut everything down. As piece by piece, schools, businesses, restaurants. I too have been working from home since March. Yes, the numbers have went up, and yes, this virus is real, but we need to stop looking at the fatality numbers and look at the survival numbers. We have all learned to live with this new normal, as we are calling it, social distancing, wearing a mask, washing your hands, using hand sanitizer. We are all hardwired now. But let's also look at the number of people who haven't social distanced at all during these last 4 months, who don't wear masks ever because they refuse, and they are perfectly fine. So what does that tell us? Who is right and who is wrong? What I do know is our kids, District 228 kids, need to go to school. They want to go to school. They are not going to benefit at all having full-time remote learning at home. They are all becoming limp noodles mentally. Am I concerned about the risks? Absolutely. Personally, my son Carter has always been my bronchial pneumonia kid, but we also know the repercussions and risk of my kids not going to school either. And that outcome has me much more scared and concerned than the coronavirus. My husband has been working in Florida since May 31st and contracted coronavirus on his job site the 4th week of June. He has been stuck in Florida until he can get a negative result. We are in the end of his 3rd week stuck alone in a hotel room, which, by the way, he got a negative result. He's flying home tomorrow. So, yay. Thankfully, he didn't have to be hospitalized. He didn't have to be on a ventilator, but he was very sick. But he was also recovering very, very well. So I can personally tell you, I get it. I know it's real, but life has to move on. We can't live this way. We have to come together and find a way to make this work safely and healthily for everyone. Carter is going to be a junior this year with 4 honors classes and 1 AP class. He, as well as so many others, will not get the college-ready education that they need from an iPad. It was one thing to end a school year doing remote learning for 11 weeks, but it's another to start off fresh at the beginning of a new school year this way. It isn't good for anyone. I then mentioned the plan that Lincoln Way District 210 went into, which is very long. In closing, I also asked, why didn't or hasn't District 228 polled us parents, students, and staff? Maybe if you heard from the parents, students, and staff, it would help you understand the importance of this huge decision and let you know how we all feel about the situation. Yes, there are going to be nervous Nelly parents who are scared as hell and won't want to send their kids, so fine. Then they don't have to send their kids to attend school conventionally. But what do they feel makes them comfortable for their child? I can guarantee you there is probably a hell of a lot more parents who are in the same corner as me advocating for their kids to be back in school in front of their teachers and not just getting a downsized education from an iPad. While we are talking about the importance of education, I'm sure it goes without saying that without in-person teaching also makes the possibility of sports continuing very iffy. And as I'm sure you can understand my personal feelings with having 2 athletes involved in both varsity and JV cheerleading. Large groups of protesting have been allowed all over the United States and even right here in Illinois. But not allowing these amazing Illinois athletes to not be able to do what they do and love for their sports is just too much. Their sports season and school year last year was cut from them, and it was not fair that it is being considered to have it stripped from them again this school year. Please truly think of these kids when making this decision. The kids need school, real school, not electronic school. In closing, I beg of you, on behalf of my own kids as well as other parents and students, to please, please, please consider either full in-person learning or at the least blended learning for our school district. Thank you for your time.
Next we have Kara Porto. Did I say your last name right? She comes out. I'm going to try to do the best I can via mask. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Good evening. My comments are addressed to the district level administration, not necessarily to the board members or to building administrators. And my comments are in regards to the plans that they've been working on for the 2020-2021 school year. I'm a teacher at Hillcrest High School. As you know, Hillcrest has a population of over 90% Black students, with the next largest demographic being Latinx students. And as I'm sure you've heard from data reports, the Black and Latinx communities are being affected by the pandemic at higher rates and with more severity than other communities. Before the school year ended, I had heard from several students at Hillcrest that had lost 3 and 4 family members to COVID-19. With that in mind, I am concerned by the administration's lack of engagement with the community regarding the 2020-2021 school year. We can't expect to meet the needs of our students if we haven't first sought to learn about their experiences and concerns, especially in the case of this pandemic that is devastating the community. Good leadership does not mean that you have to have all the answers. Good leadership means that you engage the people you serve to try to find new solutions specific to their needs. Dr. Kendall, you emailed the families and staff of the district in early June to encourage students to contact you to call out racism in the district. I quote your letter. I want all of our students affected by racism to feel safe and heard and know that it won't be tolerated. Oftentimes, racism exists in the systems that are in place and the procedures that we are accustomed to. I hope the district can become a place where we can have open dialogue about improving the systems that do not serve our students as best they can and how to do better. That being said, when a group of people thinks they know what is best for a community which they are not a part of, without asking the members of that community for their input, that's racism. And District 228 can and should do better. The task of planning for the 2020-2021 school year may be the most crucial and daunting of the responsibilities we've ever had to our students. I respect how difficult it is to navigate the issues and concerns that come with a worldwide pandemic. But your most important job is to communicate with the families we serve and to provide them agency in the decisions that will be made for their children. I hope you will dedicate the remaining few weeks before school starts to that goal, and I hope in the future you will consider community engagement your first and highest priority. Thank you.
phoned in. Can you all hear me? Okay. First was Noreen Manzo. She's from Oak Forest. Her comment is, I am a senior citizen and resident of Oak Forest who pays taxes. I would like to know why I am unable to use the indoor track at Oak Forest High School. Many other high schools allow their residents to utilize their facilities. I have to pay for a membership in Crestwood because I am not a resident. Next, we have an email from Mary List. Good evening. I am unable to attend tomorrow's meeting in person. I hope this note is read and that my questions are answered. Earlier this summer, I emailed Dr. Kendall to urge the district to make a statement acknowledging the most recent deaths and racial violence against Black lives across our nation. Initially, and to my disappointment, I was informed that the district would not be making a statement. The next day, however, to my surprise, a statement was made. Thank you for that. In the statement, Dr. Kendall stated that he would be reaching out to speak with students and families to listen and learn from them. I would like to know how. Did the district reach out to Black students, Black teachers, Black staff members, and Black families to listen and learn how they are affected by this? What support they need from their schools, and what would they like to have happen in this moment and beyond? What did you learn? What is your plan moving forward? How are you working to ensure that teachers receive anti-biased, anti-racial professional development? Is the district prepared to educate our students and teachers about racism, privilege, bigotry, and hate? How to become better allies and increase their racial literacy competencies? What is your plan? In partnership, BHSD parent, Mary List. Next is, my name is Adam Priest and I have taught in the district for 10 years. I love working for 228 and want to see it continue to make great choices for our students. As a teacher, I have found change comes with a lot of mistakes before we can improve. If we are together in August, a mistake could mean that someone loses a life. We don't have the luxury to, quote, see how it goes, end quote. Every mistake every student and staff member makes means someone could die. I teach wonderful students who follow most of the rules most of the time. However, in our new environment, what happens when students don't follow rules? The stakes are higher now than when we left in March. People could get sick and die or have permanent damage if we are together in the same room. Students share food, drinks, phones, iPads, gym clothes, pencils, and pens. We can tell them to follow our new rules, but what happens when they don't? We are responsible for them, and I would guess the lawsuits brought against the district would decide that we are responsible as well. What happens when students don't take COVID seriously? What if they jokingly cough in another student's face, spit on another student, or just yell in a crowded hallway? What happens during fire drills and active shooter drills? There are a lot of questions that our district may not be ready to address. If people have conditions on the CDC's list of higher risk factors, is our district required to provide further accommodations? How will we get substitutes during this time when there is already a shortage? Many subs are also in the high-risk category due to age. How will we effectively teach when students and staff are going into a 14-day self-quarantine? What about our student athletes? If they get COVID and survive, they may have permanent damage to their lungs, and then their competitive life is over. What about the emotional effect of a friend, sibling, or teacher that dies of COVID? If the air is recirculated in our buildings, how expensive is it to change this? I know there are still issues that need to be dealt with in a virtual environment, IEPs, social work, counseling, and mental health. However, I know we can think of ways to solve these problems without putting the students and staff at risk. I am committed to working as hard as I can to provide rigorous remote learning for students. Glenbrook, Niles, and OPRF schools have already made the choice to open 100% remotely. I believe we should follow their courageous examples. I desperately want to go back to school when it's safe, but please, let's wait until it is safe. Next is an email from Jeanette Beck. Good morning. I'm writing this because I fully believe our kids should be back in school. The shutdown was supposed to be for 2 weeks in March to flatten the curve, which extended for the rest of the year. I have a child in the district who will be a senior. I also work in the district and am fully prepared to return. She needs to be in school. She needs to be in-person instruction. She needs to be with her peers. I am aware that there is a concern for the health of the staff and teachers. However, I do not understand how restaurants, grocery stores, Walmart, Menards, Home Depot, nail salons, tanning salons, hair salons, etc. can be deemed essential and allowed to be open and schools are not. Teachers are essential. They are role models, counselors, compassionate. They inspire kids. They are a support system for kids who may be lacking in some areas of their life. They teach discipline, offer guidance. They prepare kids for life, hold them accountable for their work and actions. I could go on and on. Just like healthcare workers, police, firemen, grocery store workers, etc., schools play an important role in society. The harm that will be done to our kids not being in school far outweighs the risk. Kids need a purpose. They need direction and instruction. Not being in school gives them too much time on their hands to make bad decisions. They become isolated, depressed, bored. They will be unprepared for college or the workforce if that is the direction they choose. Advantages of e-learning does not even come close to the advantages of in-person learning. I kept a close eye on what my daughter was assigned in the last 2.5 months of the school year, and I was very disappointed at how little work was assigned and how easy it was. My daughter fully admits it taught her very little. I'm not trying to blame anyone for the unfortunate reason this took place, and I know that it caught everyone off guard, but it did harm the kids. I understand and believe that once everything opens up, there will be a rise in COVID cases. People will contract it, but people get sick all of the time for many reasons. Our kids are less likely to become infected and transmit COVID. If they do contract it, then are more likely to be asymptomatic or have a mild case. There are safe ways to reopen, but they need to reopen. Schools are crucial to communities in ways that go way beyond basic learning. They also provide children with friends, food, and other support systems. The American Academy of Pediatrics strongly supports children physically returning to classrooms. Please physically open. Thank you for listening, Jeanette Beck. Next, we have an email from Renee Ruff. She writes, good afternoon. I am writing in response to add a few questions to your committee meeting this evening. Are masks optional? Do you have any scientific peer-reviewed information on the psychological or medical issues concerning long-term mask wearing? Children not wearing a mask due to medical issues, will they be punished or shunned? Does my child need to wear a mask for sports? Will you conduct contact tracing, for instance, if somebody gets sick? Does my child have to quarantine at home for 2 weeks along with the rest of the family? Is there an option for remote learning? What is your procedure for taking the SAT? Is there any data being collected on my child and being sent to the Illinois Department of Health? Is this committee being recorded so that I can see this question and answer part of your meeting? Thank you, Renee Ruff. We have another letter. Dear District 228 Board of Education, my name is Carla B. Cheatham, and I'm a proud school counselor at Bremen High School. I'm entering my 20th year at Bremen, and this is also my retirement year. I want to start by saying we are in a pandemic. I am praying this is the only one that I experience in my lifetime. As a counselor, parent, and human being, I appreciate the extreme gravity of this situation and the very difficult decisions that must be made to ensure the health, academic progress, and social, emotional, mental health, well-being of our students, staff, and community. I absolutely miss seeing my students in person. Anyone who knows me knows that I am quite the social butterfly and I gain energy from being around my students. I simply love them. But I also feel I must advocate for the health and safety for myself. I am asthmatic along with other health issues, and I am the parent of an asthmatic high school freshman, my students, and my coworkers. I keep reading about the mental health concerns and loss of education if students are not receiving academic instruction in person. I'm not sure how many school counselors, mental health counselors, social workers, and school psychologists were consulted on this matter. However, we are in a pandemic. It would be wonderful if everyone were practicing physical distancing, wearing their masks and washing their hands, if we were all continuously following the CDC guidelines and those of the state of Illinois. This simply isn't happening right now. I know we want to resume some form of normalcy, but we should not rush and potentially risk the lives of our students and staff, and in turn, members of our communities. I am not unrealistic about the dire straits that some of our families faced pre-COVID and are currently facing. But I'm also concerned about our communities. Not only am I concerned about my students' academics, but I'm also concerned about their mental health and day-to-day living. The reality is the inequity of our needs in our society has been once again highlighted during the pandemic. Some of our families are dealing with a digital divide, employment inequities, and health inequities. The research and medical experts have acknowledged that Black and brown people are being hit the hardest with COVID-19 cases, illnesses, and deaths. African American communities are at the highest risks for having additional health complications that, when exposed to COVID-19, can create a larger health issue. This information directly affects our community. Another issue is the growing number of younger people who are being affected by COVID. I do want to state how impressed I was with our district's attentiveness to the doing their best in feeding our families in need last semester. I know many students did not perform well academically last semester through remote learning, but we had little time to adequately prepare ourselves mentally or emotionally for such a huge task. I think we know more and we can evaluate what worked and what did not and address as much as we can. I do not have all of the answers. In fact, I don't have any answers. I'm just expressing my concerns. I appreciate that we're all trying to figure this out together. If our district is looking to open a hybrid form, I'm hoping that students and staff will be allowed an option of working in full remote mode. I wish I had answers for parents who are concerned about their children returning to school but cannot monitor remote learning because they need to work to support their families. I wish I had answers to do many complicated but relevant scenarios. I pray everyone remains safe, healthy, and understand that we are brothers and sisters keeper. I want people to behave responsibly, to keep me safe and healthy, and I will do the same. We all have intense decisions to make that may continue to change and evolve. Finally, I want to thank all of the staff in our district for their efforts last semester. You are amazing. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Carla B. Chatham. That's all.
Are there any other comments? We're good?
So that's enough.
And are there any other comments from the public? Thank you for your time and presenting those comments. Moving on to personnel, Dr. Goggins.
Board members, are there any questions about the personnel recommendations?
No questions.
The health workers, what are they going to be doing? Are these people going to be doing contact tracing, or what? Why do we need these extra people?
So, not the additional nurse.
I can't hear you.
Not the additional nurse, you're talking about the extra aide.
Oh, yeah.
So, right now we have a part-time aide that flip-flops between two buildings. So we didn't expand that, so each building has, so our nurse has somebody with them full-time. So some districts are paid for the contact tracing. I haven't looked into how that would be valuable for the district, so I'm not sure if that would be a piece of it. It could be.
What's the requirement of a health aide? What, do they have any kind of nursing background, or are they just like a mom?
There's a certificate, yeah, would you answer that for me?
So, our health
Madonna's our
aides,
nurse here,
I'm the
no
nurse
press.
here at Hillcrest. So our health aides that work, one is a medical technologist, and she also has a CNA, certified nursing assistant, and the one here that goes here in Bremen is also a CNA. So although they can't do a lot of nursing things, we can delegate certain things as certified nursing assistants. And really what has been implemented between all four schools is the ability for them to do paperwork that's just completely overwhelming to us, because I can see up to 80 kids a day, and so I have to chart on 80 kids a day. And I often do not leave here until 5, this is at the beginning of the year, 5 or 6 o'clock at night. I've come in on Sundays, I mean, and the other schools are busy as well, I'm not saying that they're not. So if I had to do all this paperwork to send out letters and emails for, asthma action plans and different plans that we do yearly at the end of the year, that's one thing. our exclusion letters, to notify parents and call parents, because we have high, especially Bremen and Hillcrest, we have high exclusion, so kids are not bringing their physicals and shot records. So we, when they're not in at the beginning of the year and we have to wait till October 15th, we're sending out numerous letters, repeat letters, and then we go into these phone calls. So they're taking over some more of that, so that we can actually have the time to be with our kids. And then I know myself and Colleen Behrens from Oak Forest, we were able to, with having AIDS, we were able to teach like stop and bleed programs to our faculty. I've been in the classroom more. I've gone into the health classroom, and I'm teaching like all the freshmen. My goal, I didn't get it done. I did send my presentation to the second semester because of COVID, but first semester I went in there, did all the classes, talked about nutrition and just different things on a different level than they do in the health class, and so I presented that for an hour, and so we're just able to get into the classrooms more. Before this outbreak, before we left school, I had started going into the classrooms. I went into all the English classrooms, reminding kids, showing kids how to perform hand washing, how, coughing, this and that, and how to sanitize. So without that, we're just not as visible, and we're not utilized as nursing staff. We become more clinical, and that is not a good role for a nurse. And the NASN, the National Association of School Nursing, recommends, I'm not saying this at all, but the recommendation is one nurse, one RN for every 500 students. So we have been working for years without even an aide under that. We've hired more social workers, we've hired all these people. So, we're trying to get, adequate staffing so that we can thoroughly see our students. We see kids here that may not go to the doctor. We see kids that, they follow up with either follow up with us. But they are certified, so they can do vital signs, they can do, and then if there's an agency nurse, if one of us are sick because we don't have that pool of subs, they know the layout. They can tell people how things are run in our office, which is, it's so scary. I've been homesick, and I'm at with an agency nursing going, did you find this? Did you call so-and-so down? We have it written up, it's in a book, but for them to come in and try to learn this, and while kids are coming in the revolving door, it's very difficult. Now with COVID-19, we're expecting that the amount of kids that come in are going to be more because every sniffle, every sore throat, they're going to be coming, we're going to have to assess them. So that's another push for having someone with us full time.
So will you be testing them? Is that what you're saying?
We do not have the capability of testing at this time. I don't even know who would provide those tests. We would be assessing as far as temperature.
They need to go get tested.
Right, and then sending people off, and then we would obviously follow up with those families, and we would be
the fifth nurse would be like a backup for when.
So the fifth nurse, the idea that we had is that we have two subs in the district. One will not come to Hillcrest. She came a couple times the very first year. They've both been long time. They're older. They're in their 60s. I don't know if this is going to be an issue for them to come back to work. It's very difficult to get subs. We've hired a couple here and there. If they last the year, because there's a lot of responsibility that people don't want to lose for their nursing license. It's not worth it for them to come in for a short time. So the idea is that, one, if we're sick, we would rotate. And we're really good about calling each other, going, I know that you have a sub coming in to do hearing and vision, but I'm really sick, or I need to do this, and we trade all the time. So we would rotate this one extra RN amongst ourselves, and then we do hearing and vision for our transfer students, for all our IEP students. So we could schedule that, and then we also have our subs if we get our subs back. But this is only one extra person that we know would guarantee be in the building that we could rotate, because we don't know if the subs are going to be available. They're usually, we schedule them out. So when we're sick, really hard to get a sub to come in. And then I thought, what happens if we're on quarantine and we're out for 2 weeks? And how many times is that going to happen? Who's going to run our offices? It's frightening to think about that. Thank you.
Haven't answered one yet.
The resignation of, I know you sent it over, but I wasn't able to get it to pull up. You said it was on page 81, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but I still wasn't able to access it.
Mr. Johnson sent me an email, asked why Heidi Horn had resigned. I referred him to her email, which is in your packet.
I'll look at it again.
One other question, going back to the nurses, do we have a cost estimate on that?
For the nurse and the 2 aides, conservatively about $200,000.
A year?
Yes, with salary and benefits combined. Depending, it all kind of depends on whether or not they take single, couple, family.
Right.
Whether or not, what we spend for a nurse, a lot of times because that is a difficult to find position, we may need to offer more than what the contract currently says.
And are those salaries competitive with, like, nurses that work in a hospital or a doctor's office?
That's a great question, Evelyn, I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't been in the hospital in quite a while, but, and then I've been here for quite a while, so I think it depends on when you're coming in. I can tell you that as a sub-nurse for the day, we are, we provide up to $150 for the day for our sub-nurses. Some districts are still at like $105. Now, that's why we can't get sub-nurses. And even $150 is $20 an hour, and I don't know many seasoned nurses that are gonna work for $20 an hour. So you figure nurses are making maybe coming out, I know I used to make $11.28 an hour when I started, so it was a while ago. So it depends on how long that they've been. We certainly we would like someone experienced. You can't walk in for a new grad and do this job. I do believe that you would have to start with a higher pay than what you would start as a first-time teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to finance, item 4.1, bills, addendum to bills, payroll, and CDS bills.
Any questions on those?
Item 4.2 is the approval of an assignment request for the tax abatement that we currently have with the property located over by the Walmart in Country Club Hills. In 2014, we extended the tax abatement agreement. Part of that agreement said that if any of the ownership were to change hands, the district would have to approve it. We're not extending anything with this. We're simply just transferring interest, which basically means the current owner is no longer able to financially support the property, so they're transferring it over. So we just have to approve their transfer of interest to the new mortgage holder. Any questions on that?
I don't have a question, but I have some comments that probably nobody wants to hear, but I'm gonna make them anyway. The Country Club Hills tax abatement is a really good example of something that works for the school district. That property at 167th and Pulaski was vacant property, so our tax collection was very low. So when they developed the property, we got 50% of whatever their taxes were for 10 years. And that led to the development. I use that as a way to segue into a TIF, a tax increment financing that's coming up in the village of Midlothian. I've spoken to Tiffany about it, Brittany, and John Izzo, who is the attorney on this, to voice some of my concerns. I live in Midlothian, so I'm very familiar with John Izzo is an expert in TIFs. I totally support his qualifications for this. However, I think I'm more of an expert on Midlothian. I've lived there for 60 years. Unfortunately, this is a bad example of a TIF. This is, they're trying to use a TIF for public property improvements. They want to build a new jail. They want to improve their public works building. And some of the examples of this are they've included the Midlothian Public Library in the TIF district. They do not pay any taxes. Their taxes will never go up when the TIF is completed. They've just recently included Springfield School in School District 143. Again, public property that pays no property taxes. I've gone through the agreement that Mr. Izzo sent. I've driven around town. I've looked at these buildings. I've identified about 20 properties that are not, some of the qualifications are they're obsolete, they're deteriorating, they have excess vacancy, lack of community planning. I've identified about 20 properties that really don't fit any of those. Some of these buildings have been built in the last 5 years, so they're certainly not obsolete. The sad part of all this is we can vote at the Joint Review Board and say, no, we don't approve this. It doesn't stop it. Nonetheless, I think it behooves us to at least say no and give some reasons why. I plan to attend the public board meeting if they ever get it together, because they screwed up the thing in the beginning and did not include School District 142, which has a lot of property. A lot of its properties are in their district. If anybody has any questions or would like to talk to me about this, I have pictures and my full-page rant. I should also add that this is Midlothian is basically tipping almost the entire business district of the community. If that was the only TIF, I understand it's not a huge percentage of our tax collection base, but it's also not the only TIF that we have. There's TIFs in Oak Forest. There's the entire business district of Posen is TIF'd. We got the tax abatement in Country Club Hills. We have the TIF on 175th and Cicero. I know one has just come up recently in Tinley Park. So this is just tip of the iceberg that just keeps growing as our expenses increase, and the taxes on these properties are basically frozen for 23 years. It's a long time. Thank you.
The next item, 4.3, is for disapproval of the final pay applications from CMM Group, Inc. Currently, CMM Group is one of our contractors on our field houses. However, they're having a payment issue with one of their subcontractors. The subcontractor let the district know that they have filed a lien with CMM. So while the district is not really actively involved in this, we do have to, by law, withhold payment to CMM. They have 90 days to file their official lawsuit or settle the dispute. So until one of those things happens, we will not be submitting a pay request for CMM, but the board does have to vote to disapprove it by law. So that's what that request will be for. And then, like I said, we'll just submit the final payment either within 90 days or until when the dispute is settled. So.
What did they do?
I do not know what the exact issue is. Like I said, the district is not actively involved in this.
No, like, were they plumbing? Were they?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can find out. What is it? That's what I want to say, but I don't want to.
I didn't hear you.
I think they were general laborers.
General labor. General labor.
Yeah.
Where are they
I
from?
will confirm. CMM Group is Lansing, Illinois.
So, Brittany, if we disapprove this at the next meeting, when it does come up for payment, it'll show back up on our bill list again?
Correct.
Any other questions for Ms. Morrison? All right, moving on to item 5, teaching and learning. Dr. Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Ressler. I have board members. I have several presentations for you tonight. Jim, switch over to, well, it's a staff call. Not that one, right?
Give me a little flowers.
Let's get forward for a second. The first slide should say staff development.
You didn't say.
Yeah, no, go back. Yeah.
Oh, professional development?
Yes. All right, so, now let's have it. Keep going with that.
Yes.
I have reordered it. That's it. Right. So I'm going to start off first, talking about staff development and, shifting to online learning for our teachers in this remote setting, hybrid setting. So typically when we do staff development for teachers, it can happen in a lot of different ways. There's things that happen over the summer. We sometimes will pull teachers out of the class to do a district workshop. So we have teachers coming from all the buildings. Sometimes it happens after school in a wide variety of ways. Moving forward this year, whatever plan we end up doing for school this fall, we're not going to have the opportunity to pull teachers out of class. Because the first priority is to work with kids. So we still want to provide them professional development, also because they have to get recertified and they have to accumulate, like many of you have to do continuing ed credits, they do as well. And so by not providing a different opportunity, they're not able to earn their PD credits. So they'll be able to have access to a wide variety of topics in this online platform. We have partnered with educational technology. It is completely online, so staff can do this at any point in time. It's open 24/7. This is also how we're going to be pushing out our new teacher induction training. Will be done through this online platform. Topics in this online platform include instructional strategies, teaching teacher evaluation, school leadership, student behavior and school safety, special needs and interventions, school-wide improvement, and managing trauma-informed. And we specifically partnered with this company because in ISB's reentry reopening transition plan, they really talked about providing trauma-informed training. And so this particular platform offers a whole academy on being trauma-informed. We know that many of our students have experienced trauma in some fashion, and certainly we've seen many instances this year, these past few months, where that could have triggered even more trauma in our students. So I've asked all the administrators to start going through the academy. We're going to be pushing this out to the staff and talking about these courses throughout the year. So the courses include ACEs and trauma awareness, dysregulation. So how do I manage student behavior? How do I not react instantly, but how do I respond appropriately? Teaching self-regulation, mindfulness is a big part of trauma-informed. And then also they have a whole series of scenarios at the high school level where they can see teachers reacting behavior in good ways and reacting in bad ways and kind of assessing, what happened. So this is something that we're going to be rolling out this school year as we transition back. These students are experiencing a wide variety of issues. Even our staff has had some trauma in their lives, and it's just going to be good for all of us to kind of go through. So that's the staff development piece. Any questions?
If, so they're limited to this if they found something on their own they wanted to do?
Yeah.
A webinar from someplace, could they say, I'm gonna do this?
So this what's great about, so let me go back to those topics. There are tons of videos and tons of experts in all of these different areas. So if a teacher wanted to do a workshop on, or look at videos on formative assessment, they can do that on their own, and they would get a PD certificate for that.
From this organization?
From the organization. They handle everything. So when teachers complete these courses, they would earn 13 PD hours.
I know, it was like the NAACP, I think, whenever I told you his webinars about speaking to kids about racism, say I wanted to do that.
So for professional development, they have to be certified in professional development, they have to be an approved vendor in order to get the
Okay.
hours. They can take it, but depending on where they take it from, is when they get the hours.
Great question. Any other questions? Okay, let me move into ESSER. A little different than ESSA. ESSER is the Elementary and Secondary Schools Emergency Relief Grant. So this is additional funding pushed out by the government through the states. And the purpose is to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus threat. The grant period actually started March 17th when we were shut down and goes through September 30th of 2021. And the district is receiving a little over $1.2 million for this funding. One time. So we are focusing on these 4 areas. Meal service. We provide, I'll get into specifics a little bit later. I'm going to stop myself there. We have budgeted $93,000 for meal service for low-income families. Technology, in listening to the teachers, we did a survey with the teachers after our remote learning period this spring, and we know technology for them to deliver remote instruction was limited. There was not much you can do on the iPad. They could do stuff, but it wasn't to the level where we could be. And also software to allow that remote teaching to happen. So we dedicated a little over $611,000 to technology. Professional development, $10,600. The reason why that's a little bit low is we also have Title II dollars, which is all professional development. So we have money set aside there. And then we have almost $540,000 dedicated to safety and sanitation. So I'm going to go through each one of those and tell you what we've earmarked for those different areas. So the meal service the purpose is to assist our families in time of need. We have paid. We've actually had over 18,000 meals we've given out to families since March 17th. And we have some funds available for meal service if the district goes on remote learning. In terms of technology, this is multifaceted. First of all, we want to plan for and support remote learning, hybrid learning. And when we get back to traditional teaching, these tools are going to be really helpful for staff and for students. So first off, our hardware for students, all of our incoming freshmen, transfer students, families that are experiencing financial need, we will provide them their iPad. We know from some of our students this spring they had connectivity issues at home, whether they were lacking internet service or it was spotty. They have the opportunity to check out a mobile hotspot to take home and use. And we would pay the service fees for that. Purchasing hardware for teachers and support staff. All of our teachers are getting brand new laptops, new monitors, and docking stations. iPads for new teachers, Chromebooks for our FLC staff, and bilingual tutors. So one of the things we weren't able to do is have our tutoring staff connect with kids who they didn't have the devices. So now they'll have a Chromebook that if they can set up Google Classroom and actually tutor students using that, the Chromebook would be very helpful. I should have made this a little bit bigger. In terms of software, we have purchased licenses for a lot of software for our teachers. First off, Google Voice. Google Voice is a tool that allows the teacher to have a phone number that's not their personal phone number. So there was a hesitancy for teachers to call students because they didn't want their personal number out there. This takes care of that, and the students don't have access to their personal number. Teachers can call or text, and many teachers have great success, especially our support staff, counselors, social workers, being able to reach out to kids. These next,
In the laptops, it sounds like when you're buying our teachers' laptops,
teacher's face in the presentation at some point. It'll actually allow the students to see where the teacher is pointing with a mouse, as opposed to, they can't see, well, look over here, well, where's here? They'll be able to highlight things in their presentation. Edpuzzle takes any YouTube video, and at some point in the presentation, would actually stop the video, and the teacher can ask the students a question to respond to. So, and I'll talk about, this was really helpful in summer school. This summer that we did it remotely, and it's a way to make sure that our students are engaged with you along the way. The last three are dedicated specifically for music. Trying to figure out, how do students practice at home and then be able to get feedback from the teacher. So Smart Music is a way for students to actually practice and record that goes to the band director then or the choir director, and they can provide feedback to the student. Finale allows the teachers to create and edit music for students, so they can take a piece of music and change it to a different instrument, or they can change the time signature, they can change any of the any kinds of notes that they wanted to change within the piece. And then sight reading is going to be really powerful, especially if we do transition to hybrid, and we'll talk about some of the difficulties with music if we go hybrid. But this would allow teachers to create music that kids have never seen to practice sight reading skills, which would be really helpful. That's all the technology. I talked about the professional development already. Safety and sanitation. So the goal here is to prevent the spread of COVID-19. We are purchasing and have purchased and will continue to purchase PPE supplies, masks, safety goggles, gloves, and sanitizers. We have already put in all the main office spaces plastic plexiglass safety shields so that when people come into the office, the workers are protected. We have no-touch thermometers. Each building has 9 no-touch thermometers that they can use to take temperature of students and staff. All of the main office spaces have what's called MERV 13 air filters, souped up air filter to help take out as many pathogens as possible. New Calgon iWave air purifiers are going to go in all the rooms. So these are, and Jimmy might have to help me, ionization filters. So basically it puts out ions into the air to actually capture and break down mold, all types of germs, flu. It is 94% capable of removing COVID-19 and other food pathogens. Those are going to be in all the rooms. Once they're installed, they have 0 maintenance and they have a 20-year warranty. Electrostatic Clorox 360 sprayers. This is basically a machine that maintenance will come into the room and actually spray Clorox bleach throughout the room. It settles on all of the objects and kills all the bacteria and viruses. And then we've also are in the process of getting safety and sanitation posters, the 6-foot social distancing, and other safety posters both in English, Spanish, and Arabic. Any questions?
Dr. Lynch, just one. So on the technology, it said iPads for new teachers.
Yes.
But they'll get laptops as well.
They get both.
They get both.
Yep, they
Okay.
get an iPad and now they have a new laptop.
Okay, and then this is your PowerPoint. It's obviously available for you to send to any of us via email, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So, Ms. Stearns, I'm just wondering why you're taking pictures of each screen.
So I have
With your
information if I want it.
Okay, thank you. That's all, thank you.
Is there going to be training sessions for the employees that are supposed to spray this stuff?
Yes. Same thing, and we're also offering PD for teachers on all of the technology tools. Jim has been working with the media specialist to create videos on a lot of these tools that we offer. And are we posting them shortly on YouTube?
We're basically editing the videos now, and we're going to roll those out in the near future.
Yes. So again, teachers can view those on their own, and then we'll also set up opportunities where teachers can Google Meet and get further one-on-one instruction.
Now, I know this kind of off, but Rich Township closing down that school could impact enrollment. You know what I'm saying?
If they are residents of our district, we would, yes.
So they couldn't do like, we would have to ask them if they're residents of the district.
They have to provide evidence to us.
Okay, why does Hispanic don't have to do that?
Every student that comes to District 228 has to come.
Are you thinking of homeless, maybe homeless? If someone's, that would be the only difference.
Right. Can we switch over?
This one?
You want to stay there? Sure. So board members, I have with me, if you don't know, Steve Hogan is the JFA president, and he and I have been working collaboratively on the district's e-learning plan. So I'm going to start off basically what this is over, why are we doing this tonight. Steve's going to talk about the ISB compliance, and then I'll wrap up with troubleshooting. So I want to be very clear, what we're presenting today is for an emergency day only. If we have a snow day or a cold day, this is not how school is going to operate in the fall. Two totally different things. We're here today because we are required by law to have this process, this plan board approved and submitted to the ROE by September 1st. Okay? We have put a notice in the paper for the public saying that we're presenting this at the board meeting next week. The plan is posted on the district website for everyone to view. That's part of the process that we have to go through to have it approved by the ROE. Once the ROE approves it and you approve it, it is good for 3 years. Okay, and we'll talk about how we're going to adjust it along the way. So with an emergency day, and this year we actually used one. We used it on March 16th, and then we had active God Day starting on March 17th. An emergency day does not have to be made up at the end of the school year. So that's the advantage of having it. And we can use up to 5. They're automatically built into the schedule, the school calendar. So they're already sitting there in case we need to use them.
And they would only be used for a district closing, not a school building. If a school building has an issue, that's not what this is for.
Right, the whole district has to shut down. So again, the purpose of an e-learning day is to provide students with continuous instruction while the district is closed due to an emergency. The superintendent declares an emergency day, an e-learning day. Not to be confused with remote learning, which we're going to talk about a little later. That's because of the pandemic, and the governor is the only one that can allow remote learning. I just want to be clear. It's hard because we're going to be talking about all these different types of learning plans, and we don't want to blend them together. This one is strictly on its own. Think of a snow day. That's what this is.
Back in the old days, when we only had to worry about snow.
And when you put this on the website, you would say that in bold letters at the top, so people, because they're not gonna see that.
Yeah.
They're not gonna go to slide 10.
Right, this is not the winter. Okay, so Steve's going to talk about ISB compliance.
So with ISB compliance here, ISB requires like all these different things, parameters you need to declare, how you're going to notify the community, what's your procedure for the faculty as well as the students and so on, what's going on with the support staff, and then how are you going to revise the program in the future. So this is the first one. That's the notice to all stakeholders that the district subscribes to the SWIFT breach, and almost immediately you guys know that just goes right out to the community that we have a snow day coming up, and please just realize that that we would be implementing that we'd have this e-learning day. This goes into ISB compliance. We'd have to state that that the students of this district do have devices that are one-to-one, so we don't have that hurdle to cross. In terms of training, the district would put together a global compliance network training for the staff to view at the beginning to see how to implement it. Of course, that would probably be fast training considering the learning we had in April and May in comparison, but it's something we would go through. In early November, that'd be something to talk and train the students and pick a day for the buildings, maybe a particular department, like everyone's taking English or something like that. That's usually how we do it at Forest High School. But I guess it would be up to the buildings how you train the students to understand what the conditions are for e-learning days. So so through the grant, you guys know we're going to have these new laptops to the faculty. So especially during inclement weather, be advised that we're going to be taking these things home with us, so we can actually create our lesson plans and stuff like that remotely from home on e-learning days. This is very similar to the policy that was put forth for faculty members when we were dealing with the remote learning of April and May. Post an assignment by 9 a.m. each day, that they should cover that length of time due to the time limits that you have to hit the minimum limits through ISB. And it just provides all the different activities you can do in your class there, readings, assignments for writing or doing labs and such. You have to complete your own Google Attendance form as a faculty member to realize that you posted and notified the district supervisors at 9 a.m. as you did post something similar to the remote learning of April and May. Office hours would be held between 12 and 2. That's when faculty members can reach out to students who need that additional support via Google Hangouts, email, video conferencing. We also talk about how to remind, how to text in that way too. Or in that case, if we still have Google Voice, you can do it through Google Voice. Co-teachers would be assisting their main classroom teachers there with any kind of modifications necessary for IPs and 504s.
So a difference between what happened in the spring and this model is in the spring, we didn't have that 5 o'clock hour mandate from the state. Every day was a student attendance day. Now we have to have that activities be 5 hours for the student to count as a school day. So that's where in spring the assignments were 20 minutes. Now they're 30 to 45 per class to make sure that we're hitting that clock hour. The other change is in the spring we didn't mandate office hours for teachers. Now we're asking teachers between 12 and 2 to be available in case kids have some questions and make sure you respond to students by 3 o'clock. Again, the intent of this is we're only missing 1 day. I would say in my 27 years we've missed 3 in a row. But usually it's 1 day a year, maybe 2 days, and then we're back to school. Remember, this
Extreme
is not
cold weather day parameters are now extended to like even lower temperatures now.
Yes.
So it shouldn't get as often.
Right.
And then here's the student procedures. So of course they're going to be advised to be taking their iPads home, especially during inclement weather. They need to get their attendance done by 10 a.m. Failure to complete that form will trigger some supports that are available through the school, from the dean's office, and the principal. They are expected to review and complete these assignments for the day, and they would be pushed out through the platform that the teacher utilizes, Google Classroom, Schoology, or some other learning management system. Students who need additional assistance should reach out first to the teacher, notify them, and send them some sort of message that they do need help, or their co-teacher. And for technical issues, they'd be reaching out to the IMC librarians here, who can definitely help with that, the experts right behind me. So they do have 2 days following along, like an excused absence, like the student handbooks detail, 2 days to make up the additional work. And ISB did require that. You have to have some sort of like leeway provided to the students who couldn't get the assignments completed or receive them on the day that we had the e-learning day. For school service personnel, so they'd be completing their own Google Attendance form by 9 a.m. and this includes all the PPS personnel as well as the support staff that we would have in the building. So they'd be doing that, and media specialists would be providing that technical support, as I described before, to the students as well as teachers when it's necessary.
And then to wrap up here, troubleshooting feedback, as I mentioned under the grant, we now have mobile hotspots for students that are experiencing connectivity issues. We are asking this question as families are registering. Do you have connectivity issues at home? So we can gather that and know who those students are. We're suggesting, if possible, and again, it depends on the circumstance, can you get to a public facility where they have Wi-Fi? Can you get to the library? Can you go to a friend's house? We realize that if the whole community has a power outage, that's where the grace period comes in. We'll have 2 days to make up that assignment. We will survey staff and students at least once if an early e-learning day comes into play, because we need to gather feedback and adjust the plan. And that's also part of the compliance piece, is that we're making changes along the way.
through, I'm a student, and we declare a snow day, I gotta wake up by 10, take attendance, or log my attendance, and then depending on whatever assignments I have all day to complete them, but really I'm not talking to teachers unless I need the help.
Yes.
Okay, and the same thing for the teachers, they're 9 o'clock logging their attendance,
Yeah.
and unless students are reaching out to them, what are they doing?
Right, they're at that office hour between 12 and 2 to check in with students, be available for them to check.
And it follows along more with the asynchronous model that you hear a lot of right now.
I'm sorry, what model is that?
The asynchronous model, so
Sorry.
the synchronous versus asynchronous. So asynchronous means you'd be providing the student-led instruction to the students, and they can complete it at their own time. You don't need to be there with the student live. That would be synchronous. Am I correct with that definition?
Synchronous is they're signing in with you all the time.
Right.
Working through an assignment. This is you're working it on your own and we're checking in if need be.
I like together and apart.
Together and apart, yes. And again, remember, this is a one-day shutdown. This is not the remote learning for an extended period of
And
time.
I'm trying to keep my head there,
Yeah.
and understand that. I'm just making sure that even on these days, if we're gonna not call it a snow day and not make it up, that we're utilizing our time as best as possible with these kids.
Go back to the hotspot thing.
Yeah.
So you're asking them at registration, does that mean like day one you're handing out these hotspots?
No. As we know, we're coming up to inclement weather, we'll pay attention to that, and if we need to have those students come down and sign it out to make sure that they have it at home. Really, the mobile hotspots may not come into play necessarily on an e-learning because you just can't plan. You just don't know. We've definitely got them for the remote hybrid model.
So in comparison's sake, we did extensively research like a half dozen other districts who had theirs approved and sort of looked at what they did successfully and modeled that to ours with differences, but overall they're pretty much following the same flow chart, so we knew we were going to be approved by his plan.
Any other questions?
There's nothing that prevents, somebody talked about 3 days in a row.
I did.
There isn't anything that precludes you from doing that. This isn't necessarily just a one-day thing.
No, I mean, it's really starts from the 12th. He said it's close to 3 days. Close to 3 days. For
Those
Blizzard.
days are very easy compared to our next conversation. I wish I could call them snow days.
Right.
I'm gonna start short.
Okay.
Okay? So, the next topic is, how do we come back to school? And I know there's a lot of opinions and a lot of thoughts on this, but we don't get to work in a world of opinions. So, I need you guys to understand what world we're working in and what premise we're working on before Corey gives you our plan. First piece is we need to understand the regulations that ISB set forth for us. Okay? I hesitated to put out a survey to survey our staff because I don't know if I can meet their opinions with the regulations that I'm bound to. So a lot of districts, would you rather be 100%? Would you rather be at home? Would you rather be whatever those things are? That information can't drive our decision-making process. Regulations drive our decision-making process. So in a nutshell, ISB, after each piece, puts the word, a comma, and if possible. So I've been talking with our attorneys about what if possible means. And if you look at the guidance provided by IDPH, they never have the words if possible. So there is social distancing, period, in the sentence in IDPH. ISB says social distancing when possible. They see the difference between the two. So our insurance company reassured me and said we will have insurance for a case if we can prove that we had a solid plan and we had evidence that we could execute that solid plan. So if you have a bad plan, they're not going to cover us. If you have a good plan, but you don't execute the plan, if we put it in a binder and did whatever we wanted, the district would be vulnerable without insurance. So we have to be very particular in making sure that we can follow that plan. So then, we have to consider all of our student body and all of our staff. First thing we have to do is make sure that they're safe, work within the guidance, and then deliver the best educational product that we can, hopefully with flexibility for students who we know can't be on campus. That was our original task. I believe that the best model is 100% students in front of teachers, a traditional model. I want to tell you, we spent hours trying to meet the guidance with the amount of students that are enrolled in a class. We can't do it. So for me to put out a survey that says 100%, would get everybody excited about coming back 100% and then us disappointed. So you'll see a lot of school districts with their 3 plans. I'm not considering 3 plans, we're considering 2 plans. Okay? The next plan we talked about, and we're still in the process of talking about, is can we get 50% of our students in a building at any one time under the ISB guidance? When possible, we probably can. Under the IDPH guidance, period, no comma, no when possible, we're going to struggle with. And that's the difference. And the difference will be sorted out in a lawsuit. If something happens to somebody and somebody sues us, the attorney for the victim will be citing IDPH guidance. The attorney for the school district will be citing ISB guidance. And somewhere in the middle lies the decision, which we can't tell what that decision is. We would hope we could support when possible, but it's not a guarantee. Ray Hauser believes that a single case would cost near $50,000 to litigate. So before we get to whether we have insurance or not, it's going to cost us money to get there. So I have got to be able to be clear that we're as close to period and as far away as possible as we can be and deliver the best product to our students. Does that make sense?
What do you think, I know you can't say definitively, but the chances of ISBE deferring to the Department of Health like IHSA is?
So there was all kinds of rumors going around. Governor Pritzker wants students in front of teachers. He's pretty much held on to that as long as he can. IHSA, there's all kinds of drama with that. There was a superintendent group that said we cannot do what you're asking in the IHSA and do what you're asking in the ISB document because you're very hypocritical. And there's some school districts that believe that you can do that by asking for a waiver. So if you give the parents a waiver, the choice is for the parent. Ray's thought on that is whenever you would give a waiver, the assumption is that you're providing a safe environment. Okay? a waiver works when you can guarantee that you provided a safe environment. If we put the waiver out, we can't guarantee a safe environment, so your waiver becomes much weaker in the courts. So it's not suggested to do that. So that's where all those little intricacies come in. Okay? Questions so far?
Who decides if it's a good plan?
Who decides whether it's a good plan?
The judge.
I decide, right now, you've given me the ability to decide whether it's a good plan or not. Okay, so right now it's me. And I'm getting a lot of information from a lot of people studying it, really holding my administration's feet to the fire to prove to me that they can do it. That's what's taking our time. Me now, the public, after I make a decision, and then ultimately, hopefully, we're safe that it's a good plan and nobody else. If it's a bad plan, possibly the court.
And why are you saying you can't promise safety? Because kids won't follow the rules, or? Because
well,
some
first,
of the things they've talked about, it's like, man.
Yeah, first we have to put a plan in place. Then we have to maintain that plan over time. People are social animals. People don't like masks. Some of us have misbehaved with our masks during this meeting just because they're uncomfortable. Students gather in locations naturally. Things happen along the way. So how do we account for all of those variables to create a safe plan?
Basically, you're saying not that we don't put safety precautions in place, but that they're not 100% followed.
I'm convinced if we're going forward, we can make a good plan. I'm not convinced that the plan isn't vulnerable to erosion over time. Okay? We had a long discussion. I feel very comfortable on the safety end of 25% of the students in the building. I think we can manage 25% of the students in the building safely. My administrative team thought that only one day wasn't enough connection and value, that the time would be better spent. If we can't do 50, it would be better spent putting the efforts into a full remote model and put all of our eggs in the remote model basket. So right now I ruled out 100% everybody in, everything is normal. We just can't do that with the guidelines. And 25%, because if you weigh out the two, I think education suffers because of 25%. So right now we're struggling with 50% and full remote, and that decision is yet to be made. I've been hearing a lot of rumors that the governor's going to step in. The rumor I got today was a bad rumor. He's not going to step in tomorrow and shut it down. There's so many variables and so many options. It's so fluid that I have to make a decision soon, but I don't want to make a decision too soon that we have to remake a decision. The plan that Corey's going to present to you tonight is a fluid plan that we believe we can, she hates my word nimble, but we can be nimble enough to get in and out when we need to. So that's where we are. Believe me, this team has been putting every bit of effort that they possibly can. It's been rich conversations. We've engaged with our union. We're trying to understand the piece of the family that just can't make it because of a health reason or a fear reason. How do we provide the same valuable education? Some districts have gone to completely online, and if you don't want to come, we'll give you something, but it's over there. I don't believe that's appropriate. I want the best connection we have with our teachers, with our students that won't make it in. So those are what we're struggling. Did I give your whole presentation?
No.
Well, that too, with that kind of situation, the remote is a lot more work for a teacher. do you separate teacher? You're gonna have all the kids who don't wanna come to school. We don't even know what that number is. It could be 3 kids, it could be 200 kids.
Once we get our plan solid, then we're gonna ask. And then, again, once we ask, that may change our plan one more time, but it's not gonna change the base plan. It's gonna, how do we serve this group of people?
Would you consider though, teachers just dealing with the stay-at-home kids? Or I have to deal with both and come up with these 2 different?
Yes, maybe. That's where we're at now. Okay?
So the 50% is you saying that we have like 5,000 students, so 50% will be about 2,500.
Correct.
And then we're looking at about 600 kids per building.
Depending on the building. If we have a 1,200 building, Tinley's a little bit smaller, so 450, go out a little bit different. Bremen's our biggest building, close to 700. Okay?
Yeah, and we're approaching of the mindset that everyone's doing the same. If one building can't meet 50%, and that's why we've been focusing on, we're using Bremen's data, because if they can't accommodate 50%, nobody's doing 50%. That makes sense? Because they are the largest. Okay. So again, this is not final, and I'm going to talk in very general sense, rather than kind of dwelling with the minutia, because there's just so many moving pieces. So again, the purpose is to provide continuous instruction to students, even though the district is unable to provide in-person instruction. ISB really talked about, lessons learned, as I always say, lessons learned from the Bremen unit, lessons learned from the spring. Face-to-face instruction really has to be a priority. And that doesn't necessarily mean, using Steve's term, synchronous, where you're actually seeing me live. It could be you're seeing me in a video, but you're seeing me, your teacher, actually delivering some instruction. And so they're really valuing that face-to-face while we're working remotely. And with this plan, whichever plan we're using, the goal ultimately is we want to get back to traditional school. And we have to have a model that's going to allow that seamless. Because I'm going to kind of make a magic wish. Hopefully we can be traditional by October. So if we have a plan that doesn't mirror what we're going to do in October, it's going to be really hard to transition. And if the state then shuts us down the next day and closes school, we have to transition back into remote. So we want to kind of keep it the same as much as possible.
That's the difficulty with taking the students and putting them out. If we do go back, it's hard to assimilate them back to the regular school.
So I want to talk about lessons learned from spring. And we know it wasn't perfect. I think everyone thought, oh, we'll be back to work in 3 weeks. And then we were shut down for the whole school year. So everyone had to scramble to try to do the best that they could. And we did that. We also changed on the fly. We sometimes adapt and say, okay, now we're going to dedicate some time where teachers can connect with students. So that was Fridays. So we learned a lot of lessons. So let's kind of talk about those. We know that relationships are vital for student success. When the students can connect with teachers, they're more engaged. We know that. And we know that we had some students that didn't feel connected to their teacher for whatever reason. We know that consistent structure helps keep students on track. And we know we lost some of that in the spring. And again, it goes back to, under the circumstances, we had many students forced to go to work during the day because they had to provide for their family. We have countless cases like that. So we know we have to deal with that. We know the technology. For the teacher teaching at home, the iPad was really hard in a Google Meet to see all the kids because that screen didn't allow for that. Now the laptop, they'll be able to see more of their students at once, to be able to do that screencasting and actually posting their lessons. We know we had some students with connectivity issues. We know the uncertainty. Again, are we out for 2 weeks? Are we out for a month? We ended up being out for 11 weeks. The uncertainty of knowing what the future holds. The whole concept of do no harm
have to go back to traditional grading policies. There has to be some accountability of the student. Otherwise, they're going to continue being here. They're not going to get what they need to be successful, and they'll be here for more years. We also recognize there's issues at home that are out of our control. And I mentioned that, having to go to work instead of doing school. So those were some of the lessons we learned from spring, and we took some of those lessons and thought about, well, how are we going to run summer school? At first we actually canceled summer school because we weren't sure if we were going to have it. And then the state, because in school code, the state mandates 60 hours of instruction. And so they didn't allow remote learning at first, which is why we ended up canceling summer school to begin with. But then they came back and said, oh no, you can do it remotely. We started putting our plan in place and like, oh no, now you can be in person. We're like, we're going to do remote. So we already had the staff in place. So we took some of these lessons and we kind of modified for summer school. So one of the things that I asked the teachers is, I need you to start and end your day with a Google Meet with your students. Don't just post a lesson and not be there for the kids. That is the minimum. Do more if you need to, but tell the students, hey, we're going to start and end our day with a Google Meet, but we're also going to meet at noon because we're going to do a discussion. And just let the kids know. Let the kids know up front what the schedule is for the week. That really helps keep the students on track. Knowing the expectations for the course was also really helpful keeping them on track. Again, we didn't know the expectations in the spring, so it was hard to communicate that. So we took that in as something that we needed to change for summer school. Incorporating different teaching strategies. So it was funny, talking with one of the social studies teachers, in the spring, he would do a Google Meet and the students would sign on, but then didn't realize that some of the students weren't there, at their iPad. So he started incorporating little quizzes in the presentation. And then he knew that students weren't engaged. Well, when students quickly found out that they had to pay attention to the assessment, now they were engaged. So it's learning those little tips and tricks about how to keep the students connected. And then also putting the traditional grading structure back in summer school. We made it clear to the students, this is not like the spring. You have to do your assignments. You're going to earn a grade for this class, or you're not going to get any credit. And that really helped them be successful. So, in looking at all the factors from ISB and IDPH, and as Phil had mentioned, we're starting, and these bullet points are just some of the items in the guidelines. It's a 62-page document from ISB. And when we were talking about can we all come back to school, we didn't even make it past the second bullet. So that's how complicated, and not the second bullet in the big list.
But we argued for a long time before that second bullet.
Yes.
It was about 2 hours through the second bullet.
But these are some of the main things that we've been discussing, even at 50%. Can we maintain a social distance at 6 feet? I mean, look at the room back here. This is 6 feet in a lunchroom.
In this space, any space only allows for 50 people, so this is set up for 50 people. We could have no more in a lunchroom than the amount of chairs we have now.
How do you handle the passing period?
That's one of our points that we're still trying to work through. Even the field house can only have 50 people. So that's one of the things we have to work through. The self-monitoring quarantine. Us in the Ed Center, and I know the sports camps and driver's ed, it's practicing every morning. Did you self-certify before you enter the building? Some of us are doing it better than others, but it's a habit that we have to get into, even the mask.
Why did you live
Actually, you're not one of them.
I know.
Who's that
6:30 every morning.
So we have to take our temperature at home, and we have to respond to the 3 questions. Have you been exposed to someone that's positive for COVID? Do you have any developing symptoms? And I forgot the third one.
Do you have symptoms? Do you think experiencing symptoms or?
Everybody contacts anyone.
Contact anyone.
Anybody that's tested positive, and do you have temperature?
And take your temperature, right?
And this is something we're expecting students to do?
So originally, the first guidance said you couldn't get on the bus until you had your temperature taken. It evolved from there to you can self-certify with those answering those 3 questions. Now, the student can't answer those 3 questions. It has to be the parent, which is a difficulty, and it has to be done every day. There were some superintendents making a plea if a parent promises one time for the year to check their students and not send them, would that be enough? That's been shut down by IDPH. ISB was actually on board with that because it's easier to manage. IDPH said absolutely not. Every day, and it has to be a parent, and it has to be those 3 questions. That's a hurdle.
Even for high, I mean, I could understand it for kindergartners. For high school kids, I think it's kind of.
They're minors. But again, I can have an opinion of it.
One size fits all.
Yeah, I can have an opinion of it, but IDPH outrules my opinion.
Quarantining, what happens if someone does come to school and has the symptoms? We have to have a special quarantine room.
Well, first we have to identify them and find them. Then we have to get them to a quarantine room that's mandated to have. But along the way, we have to notice all of the people that student has come in contact with, or the teacher.
If someone's sick, what are we doing to admit them the next day? Just, okay,
There's a whole other process. We can hold them out until we have a test result, or the 14 days that they choose or cannot take that test, which would then trigger them using the remote learning day.
are we doing anything for staff members now? If someone's sick?
In terms of,
So I didn't feel good yesterday, I called off sick. I show up to work today, or do I need a doctor's note?
we've had 3 possible cases, and that was before we had protocols, and we've asked them to get the test. They've all got the test, and they were all negative.
So we didn't allow them back until they were tested, or we said, go get a test?
Stay out, get tested, use your COVID days. We never got into, they were very cooperative, and both sides were very cooperative, so we never, were more working together on it. So there may be a time when somebody says, absolutely, I have to come to work, and we have to shut them down, but we're not there yet.
Well, just so, somebody can get such mild symptoms, somebody gets no symptoms, if
Absolutely.
someone's not feeling well, but then
Those are all.
you're not well enough to come to work, but then you're gonna come to work the next day.
And part of it is isolating, like we had a long discussion, I think 2 days ago was, there are times, and even Jim's brought up, that you have seasonal allergies. Well, just because you have a runny nose doesn't mean you have COVID.
Right.
So how do we identify that, establish it, make sure we're monitoring, make sure it doesn't turn into COVID symptoms, and also letting the staff know that this is normal, they're not, having COVID symptoms.
Those are all the fine tuning that I have to get through in order to say, we're good at 50%.
Then we also talked about sanitizing spaces and objects, and that led into some additional hurdles for specific hands-on content areas, like let's start with PE. Can't play basketball, can't play volleyball, can't swim,
Can't use a locker.
can't use a locker. No changing, no contact sports, so what is the PE curriculum gonna look like? We have a plan for where people are going to be, and ISB talks about being outside as much as possible, which we do naturally in the fall and the spring. And then we have to develop a plan for what if it rains. We have to have spaces set up so that we're not over 50. In all those parameters, when we're doing attendance, it's 6 foot spacing out. If you're doing attendance, but the kids will have all their stuff with them, because they can't use the locker.
Locker in school or locker in PE.
If we're talking about science, we're going to have to establish protocols that in order for teachers and students to engage in the lab, we have to make sure that we're safe. So you can't be partners next to each other. You have to be 6 feet apart. Is that possible? We have to try to limit sharing of materials as much as possible. If we're going to share, we have to wear gloves. We have to sanitize those objects before the next class. If you're talking fine arts, there's research out there now about woodwinds and instruments that students blow into can be a hazardous situation.
As well as singing.
As well as singing, yes, absolutely. So what do we do with those classes?
There was also a minute face shields were acceptable,
Yeah.
not acceptable.
You can do a face shield and a mask, but it's not either or.
Was there a reason? I know you said that was there
So
rationale?
ISB was advocating for the shields because ELL students require, they look at it from an education lens. The DuPage County Public Health Department, through a scientific fit, that such a thing, and said absolutely not. Everybody else followed DuPage County's Public Health Department, convinced everybody else, and then it was out the next day.
Yeah, it can come up and all.
I see people in the, workers in the stores wearing it.
Yeah. Again, we're bound by IDPH.
And then similar issues coming up in FACS and IT. Think about in a FACS kitchen, the stations, the stoves are back to back. That's not necessarily 6 feet apart, but you put kids in it. So how are we going to do cooking classes? And then in shop classes, again, it's that sharing of equipment, the close proximity of students. So all of those are hurdles that we still have to work through. Even think about it in English. We can't be sharing class sets of novels. The novels have to be checked out for those students, and then once we get them back, not touch them for 4 days before they go out to the next group. So no sharing of class sets of any kind. The other hurdle that we're still trying to get clarity on are our district classes. So kids traveling between buildings and teachers traveling between buildings. Because there's discussion in there about students from the same community not coming in contact with students from another community. And does community mean the district, or does it literally mean the communities that they come from?
So, elementary schools, stationary makes a lot more sense than high schools. So I think that's what that was in there before, it really doesn't help us much.
Right. So I'm going to go through the remote and the blended idea. We're starting from the premise of remote learning because at some point, we've had a lot of discussion, at some point we're going to end up in remote learning.
Just a really quick question. Does all this apply also to our students who are taking courses at South Suburban, or is South Suburban creating their own plan? Then they have to have another set of guidelines that they have to follow.
South Suburban will have, our students at South Suburban will have our plan. The preliminary pieces that I have are, South Suburban is going to go all online, so it'll just be exclusively us in their campus.
Okay.
So it'll be ours.
Thank you.
So we're going to start from the perspective of remote learning because we believe at some point we're going to be in remote learning, whether there's a flare-up of the virus. So we want to make sure that remote learning is as robust as possible because then it's easier to transition to hybrid or back to full. So we want to keep students and teachers on the current bell schedule working from home. And again, learning lessons from the spring, it's that consistency that I know when my class is happening, I know when my teacher is available if I need him or her, and it mirrors what they would be doing in blended and what they would be doing coming back to school. Length of periods will be reduced to 40, because if you've ever been on a computer for 5-6 hours straight, it is absolutely exhausting. We're not expecting teachers or students to do that. But the learning activities for the day need to accumulate to 5 hours. So again, while they may not be directly online all the time, they do have work for the day. Students and teachers will connect every day except Wednesdays. Wednesdays, the teachers will hold office hours. It'll also be time for them to do PLC, to collaborate, to build quality lessons, assessments, activities that they can share as a curricular team as we go through this remote process. Students will continue to work on assignments independently on Wednesday. Wednesday's still an academic day, but the teachers will be available from, I think it's at 9 to 11.
What's a PLC?
The PLC is a professional learning community, so we really focused on this past school year where teams of teachers work together, and we have PLCs in different places. Some PLCs are to the point where they're actually taking data from common assessments and talking about what the students did really well, where are some things we need to shore up, what are some remediation tools we need to put in place. Other PLCs were just looking at crafting
already set up?
They are. Yep, and they could be course specific, so all the chemistry teachers are together, all the math 3 teachers are together. They could be vertical, so meaning I have a teacher from math 1, math 2, math 3 to make sure that our curriculum is seamless. So there are a wide variety of PLC options. Even our counselors are in a PLC. And all of our school service personnel. So again, with the remote learning plan, we want teachers and students to connect every period, to at least check in, take attendance, how's it going, here's the assignment for today, here's what happened yesterday, I noticed these students are struggling, let's talk about that, move on. It can also be a time where they're doing direct instruction with the student. Again, that doesn't necessarily have to be every day, but we know that that connection and that relationship is really key to keep the kids engaged. So with remote learning, we want to walk teachers, and again, we know teachers, their technology comfort level is in many different places. We recognize that. So we're not expecting all teachers to be in the same place. Our goal is to help them work towards best practice, up here on the screen. But we know we have some teachers that are working on good practice and better practice. So let me kind of walk through that. Starting at the bottom with good practice. This is where Steve was talking about synchronous, is I'm checking in and you and I are working through instructions together. I'm doing the leading and you're following me. That's synchronous. And in some cases that can be passive from the students because they're just practicing, they're not exploring on their own, which is more when you're getting up to asynchronous. And teacher assigns enrichment or extension activities during the week. That's good practice. Better practice is we're using class time for live direct instruction 2 times a week, but the other days of the week, students are looking at instruction from other sources. They're watching other teachers deliver lessons. They're doing simulations, things of that nature. Best practice is what the concept of a flipped classroom, and this is that asynchronous part, is your homework assignment is to watch my lecture, and when we're together in class, that's when I'm coaching and providing support and feedback. That is best practice. It's that class time is used for support, holding discussions, reteaching if necessary, extending the learning. So those are the types of teaching strategies we want to help teachers develop so that our remote learning is more than just posting assignment and disconnecting for the week and not providing that feedback.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So when teachers are doing that and they're delivering, a lecture or, collaboration with the students and say, is it going to be recorded? There'll be times maybe when kids are, even though they're home, if you don't feel good, you're sick, you're not on. So will those kind of things be recorded so that the absent students have a way to catch up with that?
Yeah, and we actually talked about that in that new software, and there's other software that does that, but certainly the Camtasia allows you to record that lesson. So again, we will have some students that may not be able to check in because they have to work, whatever their family situation is, we can post that, and yes, they can still access the instruction at a later date.
Another question, really fast. So, and I love the good and better best practices. I think that's great. That makes me excited about remote learning. But how are we going to be holding our teachers accountable to one of these practices from a taxpayer perspective? I don't want to be paying taxes for a teacher who's not utilizing one of these practices.
And that's something, and I'm going to be honest with you, we have to work towards that because again, we have some teachers. So let me kind of back up. One of the things that we talked about today in our meeting with Steve is, we need every teacher to be on Google Classroom. We tried to get the staff there last year before we getting on the pandemic because we have these technology resources. We need to be utilizing them. It's what students are already experiencing in college, and so we need to get everybody there. If there's a silver lining in the pandemic, it's that teachers now realize the importance of technology in that Google Classroom.
Right.
So that is absolutely going to be a priority. Is you have to be honest. You have to be posting your assignments. You have to be engaging with the kids. So we're going to start there. And we're going to make sure that we embed professional development before we start the school year to make sure that teachers at least have a couple of those lessons ready to go. And if there's going to be a learning curve, I'm not going to lie.
Sure.
It does take practice. And that's where the PLC really comes into play, that if I have a team of teachers that I can work with, I'll do this lesson, you do this lesson, you do this lesson. It helps make the lesson the load. So and make sure that everybody's doing the same.
So I think there's a distinction between an expectation. So when we expect something, we expect the floor, and we professional development and work towards a better place. So I don't want to set the expectation in a place where they can't meet them. These are the absolute basics that you have to do. We're going to use the PLCs, the professional development, help you get comfortable moving from good to better to best over time. But there's going to be some clear absolute expectations of connecting the students.
I think part of Christine's question is, how do you monitor that? And we can have all kinds of expectations, doesn't mean people are doing it.
Sure. And that's where, especially in the spring, the supervisors were actually connected in Google Classrooms. And not that we're Big Brother watching, but we're also saying and helping to show teachers, hey, so-and-so had a really great lesson, reach out to them and utilize that. It also is an opportunity for the supervisor to post things. If a teacher ended up being sick that day, they were able to post for the teacher. So
it would be Big Brother on meeting the minimum expectation. So if somebody's in there and they don't see the minimum, there's going to be a conversation on that. And then coaching and working up through the better and best.
Well, and then that leads to the question of how are you handling evaluations then? If you aren't logging into their lecture, their classroom time, what they're doing, I mean,
and that is
what if we are remote the entire year?
Yes. Then the question becomes, can you actually evaluate a teacher authentically under the conditions that we have set up? Or it's something we're going to have to negotiate with the union on that and bring it to you for approval. That maybe in this particular year we might have to delay evaluation because you can't do it appropriately. You can't assess the student growth piece, and you can't see the teacher in a natural setting.
Sure, but we have to have an accountability piece at some point, just for the basics, meeting at least the good practice during remote learning. Yeah.
That would be the supervisor.
Okay.
Wouldn't decision ed fit in nicely with this?
So Decision Ed will help us monitor grades and progress. That's what it helps us with. And it would help us if we were actually evaluating and using the type 2s. That's what it would help us with. It's not connected to Google Classroom. You can't see that on a daily basis. But at least it's going to help us monitor and catch students that are struggling early
It is
on.
connected to Power School. So the grades will still be put in Power School and the reports will still be done.
And that's one of the things that the ISB guidance also talked about is you cannot give a grade to a student without providing feedback. So there has to be some connection to kids. You have to be telling them how they're doing along the way before you give that grade.
If you obviously you run into a time where the teacher is that sick or, you need a sub, I can't imagine who that person would be. Could you have, like you talk about, another teacher who was teaching that same subject, just use their present?
Yeah, we talked about that at the beginning of the pandemic and the springtime to have a buddy system.
Yeah. It absolutely
Buddy
is
system
shared.
and a supervisor.
Yeah. Because it's a lot for one person to,
Right.
especially if you don't have your flipped videos, if you don't have the videos ready to go, it takes time to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And the more that you can share that load, it's better for everybody.
Jim, quick question though, Jim Boswell.
Yep.
Do we have access to the Camtasia yet for faculty?
Can you have it yet?
Yeah.
So we have software. The issue is it is technically has been a district-owned device and part of the license. So for us to provide it for you to use, for instance, at your home laptop, that would probably cause some issues licensing-wise. The laptops are in. We are working to hopefully get those out within a week and a half.
Right, just so, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be on August 14th, the first day of school. Here's your laptop. Good luck.
Right. Okay.
So let's take a look at the blended learning. And again, as Bill mentioned, we're coming at it from a 50% capacity, not 100%. And what we're looking at then as a cohort model is we would actually take the sliced in half. So one of the things as we were trying to figure out if we can all come back, or even can we accommodate 50%, is I took all the school's fall schedules, split it in half, gave the buildings, here's every room, here's the class size every period, and flagged anything that was over a class size of 12. And asked the buildings, now go to that room and see if you can fit 15 kids 6 feet apart. And we did that for every classroom that had a class load higher than 12. Do we have some challenges? Yes. Do we may have to relocate a classroom? Yes. We also have to keep in mind this is pre-balancing, so we know that there's going to be some reshuffling of the students, and that will also help. But we do have to figure out some of the issues, and we'll get to one of the hurdles in a minute. But, and this is not perfect, I'm just giving you an example, A to L, and it depends on the building, M to Z. So if I'm in A to L, I'm group A, I come in person Mondays and Thursdays. If I'm in group B, I come in person Tuesdays and Fridays. So what am I doing the other days? I'm working remotely from home. Wednesdays would be, again, just like we're doing in remote, check and connect office hours with the teacher, and then teacher planning time, PLCs. Students are working independently at home on assignments. It's also an opportunity for PPS to connect with students. And that's something, let me back up too. By following the students' schedules, students have a natural break for lunch, for study hall, same with the teachers. They have a natural break for prep period, for their lunch period. By staying true to their schedule, now counselors know when to reach out to kids. I know the student is free right now. I can check and connect with them if need be. So that's one of the things we struggled with in the spring is sometimes we were stepping on each other's toes. You know, a science teacher wanted to touch base with this kid, but he was in an English meeting. You know, and so that's why staying on the schedule, everyone's aware of when they can work with students. So again, we would follow the student schedule. The students would come for the entire day. Because if we're going to have them in person, we want to maximize the amount of contact time that they have, because we know having students in front of teachers is the best. And so we want to maximize that time. We would also use Wednesday as an opportunity to do a deep clean of the building, because the students will be here. We have not decided yet whether the teachers would be in attendance or the teachers would work remotely on that day. We still haven't solidified that. But again, by following the student schedule, by following the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday schedule, we can seamlessly move in and out from hybrid to remote or back to full instruction. So some of the hurdles to implementing the blended plan that we already mentioned, passing periods, lunchroom. Right now, if you take 5th period at Bremen, there's 164 kids needing lunch. Can't have 50 students, more than 50 kids. We have to figure out where do we put those students. We also know you can't do lunch like you normally do. You can't have a line. You can't have a salad bar. It's going to be a grab and go. Office areas for teachers. I'm sorry?
There's just things that we throw about.
Yeah. Office areas for teachers. Making sure that they are socially distanced in their office space. We already talked about the self-certification procedures, especially now you're bringing students into the building.
Office area for counselors in the dean's office. Can you socially distance in your workspace? I don't believe so.
Mask management, symptom management, the cleaning and disinfecting, having that quarantine space, and we already talked about locker usage. You know, it's all fine in the fall. What happens when it's winter? You know, students have coats and
Who's going to be responsible for watching people in the quarantine area, supervision?
Possibly that health aid.
I'm sorry?
The health aid that we just.
Oh, okay.
Possibly.
So can I ask, what is the guidance on the mask management, and how is that enforced? How is it handled when they don't want to? So
everyone's required to wear a mask in the building. We know that students are gonna forget. We're gonna have, the state of Illinois has given us 1 mask per student. So we're not gonna give those masks out. We're gonna save those, and then when we need to hand one out, we need to hand one out. If a student is repetitive with that, we're gonna have to work on a different option for that student. If a student is insubordinate with if they're not wearing a mask, we would seek to keep them at home full time. And it's not going to be a detention, a Saturday, a suspension, and an expulsion. We're going to work with them to meet their academic needs, but in a different location. But it'll be an issue. And you can see, even in society, everybody behaved, and then as it gets old after a while. So that's where the risk comes in, the erosion. So the plan is concerning to me.
So those are all the challenges, and again, not getting into the weeds on the details, the difference between the blended and the remote. Again, goal trying to get back to traditional, keeping it as close to that as possible. But we still have some hurdles we have to get through. Any final questions?
And we looked at just extending the day. Maybe instead of 3 o'clock, make it like to 7 o'clock or something.
It would go a 25% twice and extend the day.
We could, or we could still stick with the 50%, maybe do 25 and then 25.
Right. You'd have additional bus routes, because you'd have to run the bus 4 times.
Right.
Instead of 2, and that would have to be negotiated with the teachers. The contract right now wouldn't allow for a 8 in the morning to 7 o'clock schedule.
Well, no, we wouldn't have to have a first group of teachers teach from 8 to 1, then from 2 to 7.
That's what he's saying, that right now the teacher contract, their day ends at 3.
Right.
If we want them to work a different schedule, we have to negotiate that.
What is it gonna take to make it normal?
Vaccine?
I mean, we keep talking about, maybe it's a month, I don't see any way it's a month, but so when do we know that it's,
Phase 5.
which is the
Which is
vaccine?
the vaccine, and the governor declared it safe. So we're gonna be in this.
That means this year is gone.
We're gonna be in this for a long time.
Yeah, I've had parents telling me,
I
if the
cannot.
schools don't open, the kids should just repeat the year.
Yeah, I can't declare phase 5. That's done by the governor. I'm bound by the guidelines, and
I understand.
I know I can't get 100% resilience, so.
But that is stage 5 is the vaccine, am I correct?
Stage 5 is the vaccine. Now, there's some buildings that, because of their situation, they can get 100% in their building, and they can go back to normal in phase 4. So they're not banned from it, but you're bound by the guidance. You can fit under the guidance. And frankly, there are some schools that I've heard of where they're just going to ignore the guidance and go complete tolerance. So we're not doing that.
Yeah.
I have more of a comment than a question. I know that this has been a lot of work behind all of this, and I've, been in communication and watching the news on a regular basis, and I have been hearing from our community members and the people of the different schools and everything like that. I think we've heard a lot of arguments of, I want my student to go to school, and I've heard a lot of arguments of, my child has asthma or bronchitis, I'm too scared to. And I think what I've appreciated the most is the time that we're taking to do our research and our homework, and that we're not just jumping and making messages out there to make a message. I know I'm confused every time the president or the governor or ISB sends something out, so it just feels like a moving target. I don't know where we're going, both in my personal life, in my professional life, and my school board member life. It's just there's a lot of moving targets here. So while it would have been, I know parents would have loved to have a survey and been included in this. I think at the same time, to not give them false hope, which we're getting a lot of that in many different channels already, and start sending mixed messages. And I have a child that goes to an elementary school district, and I have been getting those mixed messages from that district, and it's very disheartening and confusing as a parent. And I'm more concerned about my son than I would if my child was here in the high school district. So I just want to say I support 100% what our administration has done up until, and the information that they provided us today. And I hope that staff and students and parents and teachers can administration have their best interests at heart, but we do too, and that we're not taking this lightly by any means, from any aspect of the situation. So thank you so much for all the hard work that's gone into this. I know it's not been easy.
Yeah, I will just second that comment. And at the end of the day, regardless, there's choices. You know, if your child can't be here, you have the choice to have them at home, and we have the capability to get the instruction to them.
And I fully accept that there is no right answer. There's our best answer, whatever that might be.
And just for clarification, next week we're voting on snow day.
Snow day.
plan.
Yeah.
We are not
Just
voting
call it
on
snow
this,
day.
right? Correct?
So some districts have given, the superintendent has given it to the board and let the board decide. I think it's so fluid and changing. Last spring, you gave me the responsibility to change on the run and do what is appropriate, and you hold me accountable to what is appropriate. I think that's the best option. Because I don't want to wait and have a special board meeting or take something if we need to change within 24 or 48 hours.
So when do you expect this to be communicated to our stakeholders? Go ahead.
I would say August 1st is probably our deadline. That gives parents 2 weeks to do what they need to do. It's still going to take us some time for our administrators to convince me that we can come back full-time. We're not there yet.
And with that being said, I don't interrupt everyone, but with that being said, if August 1st is the date, I don't want to say our teachers preparing, or is there like a contingency plan that they have? If I do go back or if I don't go back, does that give them enough time to be prepared then for the first day of school?
I think so.
August 1st.
So the other thing, like we had in the spring, we have 5 remote learning planning days that still count as student attendance that allows the teachers to get ready. And that's something that we're going to work on next week with Steve is what does that first week look like? So we have our Teacher Institute, which part of that is, getting used to the new norm. Most likely we may have a learning planning day on Friday, possibly on Monday, and then we figure out, if we're going a hybrid, if we can start bringing in students in groups, or we're going fully remote. But there'll be time for them to get in, do some of the professional development, and they have time to do that before too. I'm not saying that they can't, but we will for sure provide time for them to get ready.
So I found out today District 218 is going to recommend a model, and I need to wrap my head around the first couple of days are transition days for teachers. The next 3 weeks are transition days for students, which would be online, and their goal is in the 4th week to get to a 50% model. There's some upsides and downs. I'd rather start with our students with us and then go to a remote model. But so there's a couple of different options from different districts that I want to talk about, think about. There's some districts that are just flat out, we're going 50%, and we're not worried about IDPH. We're going to stay with the BSB model and if possible, and if something goes bad, we say, well, we did our best. I don't feel comfortable there. I think that's too risky for the long-term health of our students and faculty and our finances.
If we choose the blended model and there's students that are, and parents that my child is not coming, they're going to be strictly remote, are you going to make them, is there going to be that they have to commit to that then for a full semester? Because if you work in how to get 50% in, and people are flip-flopping in and out, this week I don't want to come, but next week maybe I do. I mean, there has to be some sort of commitment.
It depends a lot on the number of students. So if we put this out and we have 30% of our students from a building say that they want to stay home, we're going to have to drastically shift our staffing, and I would say then those 30% are locked into a semester. If it's 10 or 12 or 15 or whatever that number is that we can sprinkle them and manage them throughout the classes, I think we would stay. So it depends on the number.
And would they remote into the class then? If it was their schedule, they would just remote in. You wouldn't have to have separate instruction for those students that want to be fully remote.
No, and that's one of the things, you know, we had a hybrid A and a hybrid B, and the hybrid A was very similar to the plan that the JFA put out that, yeah, so the people in front of me are getting one lesson and the students at home are getting another lesson, but then what about the kids that you're never going to see? That would be a third lesson. At least in our model, all the kids are getting the same, whether they're with me or at home.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the better.
Right,
the better
that
model.
makes most sense.
The other thing we talked about is, you know, we know we have transfer students. And transfer students, we might have to commit to online Edgenuity for the semester because it might be too hard to pull them in and out. We also talked about students that, you know, are struggling. Maybe they need to do part-time. You know, and again, that's going to have to be a family decision that instead of trying to do 6 classes, let's do your 4. And let's really focus on those and then pick up your electives later. You know, so we have to be flexible in all these different situations and work with the families.
If we do end up going remote, is there something in place where a teacher gets to make an initial connection with the kid, one-on-one, either face-to-face or?
Yeah, we've talked about a number of models of how to get the students in the building to meet their teacher. The problem is it's going to take so long to do. So I'd really like our freshmen to come in and meet their teachers.
Right.
But if I have a freshman, junior mix in my class, it might take me a week to get through my freshmen, and am I doing a disservice to our juniors? So we haven't perfected that, but the goal would be a face-to-face meeting somewhere. I'll clear it out, huh?
All right, any other questions for Dr. Williams regarding the opening of schools?
So the last slide was questions to be answered.
We don't have any.
We just have a lot of questions.
We weren't supposed to see that one. That was
Oh, all right,
oops, I
sorry.
forgot to pull it up.
Disregard.
Yeah, we still don't know about those two.
Thank you again for walking us through that important.
I will say one thing about IHSA. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around if IHSA, if ISB now or IDPH who's in charge of IHSA, allows sports, for us to have sports and have school at 50%. If I say it's okay to come in and safe for 50% or no time academically, but it's safe for 100% athletically, that seems hypocritical.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we wanted to stick around for another hour. I was like,
Yeah, right, that's the next question.
They're saying-
What is there an official ruling?
They're saying as long as you're outside
Sports?
and there's no physical contact, that's different than.
What they created is not competitive sports. So they've taken the masks, the face-to-face, anything that's considered contact. I don't think IDPH is going to waive those rules because it's sports. We're just waiting for that shoe to drop.
There's not one sport I can think of that you don't actually touch something.
Well, even
Well,
cross-country,
maybe
the very
golf.
nature of cross-country is to
Yeah.
close the social distance.
Oh, yeah.
You would think running would be safe, that's not.
All right, last call. All right, for announcements, our next board meeting is Tuesday, July 21st, 7 p.m. here at Hillcrest High School. And our next committee of the whole meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 11th, 6:45 at Oak Forest High School. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Motion. Motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor, aye.
Moved by TJ, second by
I'll second.
Debbie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.